The following is a CUNY TV special presentation.
We welcome Amtrak's Chairman, Tony Coscia. Tony is here to give us the details of the progress made during the summer's infrastructure work at Penn Station. It was done on time and on budget. I think we should give Tony and his team a nice round of applause for that. And also, he's going to give us an update on the Gateway program. We are cautiously optimistic from the positive reports following a bipartisan meeting on Gateway with New York officials, the President and Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, and Economic Advisor Gary Cohn. So, Tony, we look forward to hearing your insights on this critical infrastructure project for our city and state and your plans for Amtrak. Thank you for joining us. Please welcome Chairman Tony Coscia.
It's great to be here, and I appreciate having an opportunity to talk to a group that is so much the fabric of New York. I had a brief conversation with Howard Rubenstein this morning before we started, and just reminding me of how many people in the history of New York have come together at times when that was absolutely necessary, and as a result of that, New York is the great place that it is. And certainly, Bill Rudin and his family fall in that category, as do many here that I've had the opportunity to see this morning, old friends and new friends. And New York is a great place because of the people here. And that's something that, you know, hopefully we all can continue to remember and work toward. A while ago, someone asked me why they call it Penn Station. As many of you know, the Pennsylvania Railroad's successor company, Penn Central, entered a rather spectacular bankruptcy in 1970 and ceased to exist in 1976. But almost 50 years later, the building still bears the Pennsylvania Railroad name. This despite the fact that, as you know, we slap names on pretty much every public facility that we get the chance to do. So I was thinking about the answer to that, and it occurred to me when I thought about something that happened when I became the chairman of the Port Authority in 2003. A group of the senior executives at the Port Authority hired a consultant firm, and they retained the consultant to basically try to improve the Port Authority's image. So the firm spent a bunch of weeks studying the subject, and they came back and we had a meeting for them to give us their recommendation. And their first recommendation was that we take the Port Authority's name off the bus terminal building. So the point being that obviously who wants to admit that they actually own the bus terminal? Obviously the public relations professionals at Amtrak are a little bit better than some other agencies because in a nutshell, Penn Station is still Penn Station and not Amtrak Station. Although pretty candidly after the last several months and thanks to our two governors in New York and New Jersey, I doubt there's anyone in the New York metropolitan area who doesn't at this point know that Amtrak does in fact own Penn Station. So all kidding aside, my story gets to the heart of a major problem we face in financing and building major infrastructure projects. Maybe it's simple human nature, but it's in the short term, people tend to reward people for avoiding difficult issues and punish them for trying to address them. The reality is that it's a lot easier to take your name off a building than it is to fix it. It's definitely easier to ask someone else to fix your problem than it is to accept responsibility for it. And certainly it's a lot easier to manage expectations than it is to take measured risks and exceed them. Even the strongest leaders don't always have the strength to do the right thing and can be convinced to put self-preservation above conviction. In a world of instant feedback and radical transparency, we often put off hard decisions that will be unpopular with an unforgiving customer, electorate, or shareholder. Hopefully at Amtrak now, we're taking a different approach. Take, for example, the renewal program at Penn Station. The challenges that we're encountering at Penn today and Amtrak is trying to fix are a culmination of years of underinvestment, avoiding decisions that should have been made a long time ago. Contrary to popular belief and what you may have read about Penn Station, the experience it is not because some Amtrak employee didn't replace the correct railroad tie. Anyone who doesn't understand that, I'd ask you to join me for a field trip to Penn Station. We'd have to get there at 1 a.m. in the morning, though, in order for you to avoid trains every 2 minutes or inconveniencing thousands of people. But what you would see is a highly complex system that was built a long time ago and serves a capacity far beyond what currently it does. And you'll realize just how difficult this experience is. Earlier this summer, Amtrak made the tough and unpopular decision to consolidate years' worth of maintenance work into an aggressive 10-week schedule that required taking some tracks out of service. It's hard to overstate just how complex and how intricate the Infrastructure Renewal program was, but seeing up close gives you a pretty good sense. 360 skilled Amtrak employees representing every railroad discipline: track, communications and signals, electric traction, building and bridges. Nearly 1,300 hours work laying 6 football fields worth of track, almost 900 railroad ties, 1,000 tons of ballast, and 200 yards of concrete. As you may know, the job involved removing and replacing track 10 in the station and completely rebuilding something known as the A interlocking, the critical sorting mechanism that routes trains between Penn Station, the Hudson River Tunnel, and the Long Island Railroad's West Side Yard. All of this is in an extremely confined space with active trains full of passengers just a few yards away. Under tremendous public pressure and with razor-thin margin for error, our crews got it done, delivering the program on time, on budget, and most importantly, safely. You can't ask for much better than that. After all, the project was essentially the infrastructure equivalent of performing open-heart surgery on a patient who's still awake. The amount of precision and skill involved in both planning and execution was truly remarkable. No one wants to inconvenience travelers, but the circumstances left us no choice. Actually, that's not entirely true. We did have a choice. Rather than take the difficult steps of fixing this part of Penn, we could have simply addressed the immediate issues and saved the real fixes for later, hoping that the normal incremental approach would get us by. That's essentially what's been happening throughout the region and across the transportation system. We put hardworking, dedicated professionals in a box, and then we tell them, don't impact schedule, don't impact service, here's half the money you actually need, and here's half the time you need to do it. And then we expect them to keep everything running. That's because that box feels safe, but it's an illusion. Eventually, these constraints create a situation where the box breaks in two, and then we all realize that there are no painless options. We either decide that we're going to do more than slap a Band-Aid on the problem or accept the unreliable system where things like derailments and delays become even more commonplace. At Amtrak, we've made our choice. We're fixing it. It doesn't really matter whether someone should have done it 10 years ago. They didn't do it, and we're stuck with it. What I just don't want to have happen is someone 10 years from now asking us why we didn't do something about it. Make no mistake, the work we've done is hardly a cure for everything that ails Penn Station. In fact, this summer was really just the beginning of a new day for Penn Station and Amtrak. This was just one of 4 major interlockings and just one of 21 station tracks. We've got a lot more work to do, and there's a lot to catch up on. In the months ahead, most of the work that will be done will be in limited windows during overnight hours and weekends. But sometimes there will be particular projects that simply can't be accomplished during those short windows alone, and more time is going to be necessary. When that's the case, we're going to do what it takes to get the job done correctly, not defer it and to avoid any level of disruption. When that's necessary, we'll work closely with our railroad partners to ensure that the same level of planning and preparation, the same robust communication that took place this summer will take place in order to minimize inconvenience to travelers. While we're planning the future, we remain focused on fixing what we have at Penn Station today. In the months ahead, we'll be expanding Club Excella, rebuilding our main restrooms, repairing elevators in the HVAC system, strengthening the command posts for interagency communications, and reconfiguring passenger areas. Along with our railroad partners and outside experts, some from the U.S. and some that we identified from places around the world that have had good experiences, we're looking for ways to improve concourse operations, signage, wayfinding, and testing new technology to help passengers navigate what can be a very complicated space. These initiatives, along with our hopeful repositioning of retail at Penn, will have a significant near-term benefit on passengers. Amtrak is going to do the work required to strengthen our railroad. This summer, we proved that with careful planning and a commitment of dedicated workforce, even the most technically challenging and precise work can be done safely minimizing disruption, and serving the long-term needs of the region. If the Penn Renewal project is the reversal of the practice of kicking the can down the road, then Gateway is declaring an end to sticking your head in the sand. The same narrow view that concluded that last spring's derailments were only about fixing a couple of railroad ties would have us underestimate the vulnerability of a 107-year-old tunnel that serves as the sole connection for commuter and intercity trains between New Jersey and Point South and Manhattan. It was built when there were sheep grazing in Central Park. In fact, the sheep moved to Brooklyn when the tunnel was 25 years old. It needed replacement a long time ago, and Superstorm Sandy certainly did a significant impact to it, and I think you know the rest of that story. At some point in the coming years, the ongoing damage caused by Sandy will mean that the tunnel will become so unreliable that we'll have to close it for extensive rehabilitation. If that happens before the new route is established between New York and New Jersey, the region's rail traffic will drop 75%, from 24 trains an hour to 6, a nightmare scenario that would cripple the transportation network and devastate the economy at large. In the 21st century, we can't allow 10% of America's GDP that this region creates to rely on something so fragile. We have no time to waste in solving this problem, but I think we can truly do it. It's important to kind of go back in terms of how we got here, but after the ARC project was terminated, Amtrak spent a considerable amount of time and resources advancing Gateway. We did the hard, often unglamorous work of developing and planning alternate alignments and bringing the new tunnel directly to Penn Station and rectifying the large problem that existed in the ARC plan. Then we looked at the tracks and bridges that connect Newark and the tunnel and the stations at Penn Station, and we developed all of this into a 9-project program, which is what you know of as the Gateway program. When this is fully realized, Gateway will truly be a transformative project, impacting millions of commuters and businesses for generations. One-seat ride from communities west of the Hudson. Think about that. Towns that today don't have one-seat rides will have them. And will have a dramatic impact on commuters. And the enhanced and expanded Penn Station will turn that area into the economic and cultural epicenter of Manhattan. Gateway will turn Penn Station into a building everyone wants to put their name on it. People always ask me, so all of this stuff about Gateway, when are we actually going to get started? The answer is that at Amtrak, we certainly have turned the hourglass over a long time ago. We've clearly started it. At Hudson Yards, we constructed the first 2 sections of concrete casing, preserving the right-of-way for future tunnels to connect with Penn Station. It was Amtrak that led an economic analysis that found that every dollar invested in this $20+ billion program will return $4 in economic benefit to the region. In the past 5 years, Amtrak and its federal partners have put more than $300 million into the Gateway program. Now, under the framework of the Gateway Development Corporation, all the stakeholders involved, including the states of New York and New Jersey, through the Port Authority and New Jersey Transit, are working with federal leaders, particularly Senators Schumer and Booker and Congressman Frelinghuysen and Secretary Chao and her team at DOT to take the difficult steps and make the tough decisions to find a way to fund it. Failing to do so risks wasting the substantial and important progress we've achieved to date and exposes us to an ever-growing risk that the railroad we rely on so heavily will simply not be available. The Portal Bridge project, which brings New Jersey Transit and Amtrak trains over the Hackensack River to the tunnel, is fully permitted and ready to go, and we believe construction can start immediately on that project. Also, with the help of US DOT environmental review of the Hudson Tunnel project, we'll also be able to rehab the old one and build a new one. And we're speeding through an accelerated environmental review process that will be complete by March of 2018, roughly half the time that a similar project normally would require. By next year, we'll be ready to start construction on the tunnels. So it's time for all the parties involved to get serious about financial commitments and other steps to move the program forward. Every day of delay adds cost and risk to a situation that will have a dramatic impact, not just on the region, but as the nation as a whole. As I said earlier, the safe play is often to avoid dealing with difficult issues rather than embracing them. Governor Cuomo demonstrated his leadership with the Tappan Zee project, LaGuardia Airport, and Moynihan. I get the fact that he hasn't always been Amtrak's biggest fan, but clearly he's not trying to kick the can down the road, and no one is going to include Andrew Cuomo of ever sticking his head in the sand. Similarly, Mayor de Blasio has shown a willingness to take action on transit issues and strong leadership in trying to ease the imbalance in affordable housing alternatives for New Yorkers, which would have a lasting impact on for generations. Having the conviction to make hard, politically unpopular decisions is one way we're trying to do things differently at Amtrak. Another is by maintaining a laser focus on initiatives that set Amtrak apart as a leading transportation company and an integral component of the nation's multimodal transportation system, and, most importantly, an organization that deserves taxpayer support. For most of its existence, Amtrak's been fighting the good fight, trying to get Congress to cough up enough money for intercity rail. Compared to highways and air travel, as you know, intercity rail has for years been the poor stepchild of the U.S. transportation system, with no dedicated funding stream, enormous capital needs, and a fractured political constituency. After roughly 40 years of failing at this objective, when I became the chairman of Amtrak in 2013, and with a new board fully constituted, we decided to spend less time asking for money and more time earning it. Amtrak has a long and proud tradition in the railroad industry with some of the top subject matter experts and a terrifically dedicated workforce. But every army needs a clear mission and strong leadership. We adopted a focus on safety, customer service, and financial performance. If anyone was going to give us money, it was going to be because we had the ability to be good stewards for the business we already operate. Moreover, we needed to develop a strong and robust planning and project management capability. I've been in the private sector for over 30 years, and I've had the good fortune of working with some very successful and talented investors. I can tell you that no one invests in a business because it's poorly run or designed, unless, of course, it's for the purpose of kicking you out of it. This is the path we've chosen for Amtrak. We've made enormous improvements in operating performance, substantially reduced operating losses, cut expenses, paid off 2/3 of our long-term debt, invested in hundreds of millions of dollars in new locomotives, and invested heavily in recapitalizing the new Acela system, as well as heavy investments in technology, all of which have made an enormous difference and continue to make one in the company. Our 2016 operating loss was the lowest in the company's history, and we're on track to beat that number in fiscal year 17. Equally important is providing leadership and investing in our people. Take, for example, our recent hires at the highest level of the organization. Wick Moorman, our co-CEO, is an icon in the railroad industry. After just a year in the role, he's made enormous progress transforming the organization, attracting new talent, and helping existing employees achieve their full potential. For the first time in decades, a structure of solid planning and project management is emerging at Amtrak. Wick's immediate reaction to the derailments at Penn Station was to apply the most comprehensive solution possible, not just to get past the next news cycle. In July, Richard Anderson joined the C-suite as our co-CEO. As many of you know, Richard took Delta Airlines from bankruptcy to the unquestioned leader in the U.S. airline industry by deploying the very simple concept that it's all about the customer. Working alongside Wick in what is now an innovative and we hope not temporary co-CEO arrangement, Richard brings another top-flight executive with strategic vision and tactical experience to Amtrak to deliver for our passengers, our partners, and our stakeholders. It's interesting that these two best-in-class executives chose to join Amtrak to lead this mission right now, and that says a lot about where we're headed. And in the months ahead, we'll talk more and more about this, but I'd like to talk a little bit about what I'd like to call Amtrak 2.0. When Amtrak was created in 1976, after the bankruptcy of the commercial railroads, no one knew what to do with the passenger rail system. America saw automobiles and airplanes as the future, so it wasn't a major concern that we underinvested in passenger rail and didn't really have a plan for the future. By 2017, because of people moving back into cities, volatile gasoline prices, long lines at airports, the desire never to let go of your iPad or your laptop, trains have become popular again. Therefore, the company that was created in 1976 simply won't do in 2017. There's a lot we can say and talk about for Amtrak 2.0, but let me hit some of the things that I think are key. First and foremost, we need to be a well-run company that features industry-leading safety record, strong on-time performance, clean and safe trains, and exceptional customer service. We've already made great strides on this front, including recently the refreshed coaches on our regional trains that are just hitting the rails this week, but there's still so much to be done. The overwhelming success of the Northeast Corridor demonstrated the demand for passenger rail between cities. But there are other city combinations around the country that offer similar opportunity to create a viable alternative to transportation by car or plane. In fact, Amtrak service, operated with our state partners, already is seeing high demand in places like Chicago to Detroit and Milwaukee, Philadelphia to Harrisburg, Oklahoma City to Fort Worth, and other places. Building out this city pair system around the country would be a meaningful economic stimulus, enhance mobility to and from our major metropolitan areas, and create jobs in the construction, manufacturing, and operating level. Not to mention the billions of dollars that will be saved by people showing up to work on time and the enormous quality of life improvement that comes from not having major delays caused by slow trains, congested highways, or canceled flights. The second thing is that we have to embrace the private sector's growing interest in passenger rail. Around the world, trains are back in vogue, and communities across our country want and need more Amtrak and passenger rail to do more for their citizens. There are multiple components of Amtrak's business that would be attractive to private capital and new partnerships. Such initiatives would bring needed financial resources to intercity rail and help drive the type of business discipline that only comes by putting your own money at risk. We've already seen the success in partnering with developers to monetize real estate assets around our train stations. Philadelphia and Chicago are great examples, and Washington, Baltimore, and yes, New York represent enormous future opportunities. Third, technology. Technology is a key element of Amtrak 2.0. Since the introduction of our mobile application and e-ticketing solutions, Amtrak has been and will continue to develop industry-leading technology solutions to keep our customers connected and businesses moving. We continue to improve and expand our onboard Wi-Fi, and our new partnership with Lyft will help people overcome the so-called last-mile challenge Amtrak passengers have. And our continued investment in positive train control makes us a leader in driving safety. And then finally, partnership. Partnership is a key to Amtrak 2.0. All the things I've talked about this morning, whether it's at Penn Station or Gateway, none of them could be accomplished without others. Amtrak is not going to fix this problem alone. Everyone understands that. It will be in conjunction with MTA and New Jersey Transit, the states of New York and New Jersey, and jurisdictions across the country. I think passengers who take an Amtrak train and then a New Jersey Transit bus through a Port Authority tunnel and then take an MTA subway somewhere don't really care who's running the company. They don't care who owns the system. They just care about getting from point A to point B. And those partnerships will be key to a strong and vibrant Amtrak in the future, and we expect to make those partnerships an important integral part of everything that we do. Well, with a world-class leadership in place, fresh off the success of a major infrastructure program that was delivered on time and on budget, and with an eye toward the future, Amtrak continues to reinvent itself. We'll be announcing a lot more changes in the weeks and months ahead, but it's my hope that you'll get to know the Amtrak the way I know it, and you'll get to rely on it, and it will be part of your life. Thanks, Bill, and thanks for having me here this morning, and I hope I see everybody on the railroad. Thank you.
Tony, thank you. I had called Tony in the beginning of the summer when all the noise was going on in terms of the closure and the changes of what was going to happen, and you know, the wheels did not fall off the bus, and they did an incredible job. So again, Tony, thank you and your team for really doing a job well done, and we look forward to working with you as you continue improving Amtrak. So thank you very much.